Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. I am Connor Williams, and we are doing a James Rodriguez leaving reaction video. I'm joined by James Pendleton from the Babbling Blues. James, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, not bad. As I was saying to you, probably about as good as I could be doing after last night. But I've seen a lot of people weren't getting in till 9-10 o'clock this morning who went to the game, so I'm doing a lot better than they are, I'm sure. But yeah, not too bad, thanks.
Good. Obviously, James Rodriguez, since probably Ancelotti leaving up until now, there's been a talking point that I don't think anybody covering Everton can sort of escape. He's constantly being asked about in Benitez's press conferences, constantly being asked about on Twitter. Now we finally have some sort of resolution. Just give me your initial thoughts to him leaving.
I kind of accepted he was going to leave as soon as Ancelotti went, to be honest. I think there's probably a bit more depth to it than that. It probably wasn't quite as black and white as soon as he left that James was going to leave, but I kind of expected it. I mean, to be honest with you, when we signed him, I just couldn't believe we even managed to get him. I would have been shocked if we'd managed to keep hold of him for a season, because the way he started, I thought, well, he's probably just going to go back to another team playing in the Champions League or something by the end of the year. But instead, obviously, he's gone and played, and he's going to the Middle East to play now, which is, I think, quite a strange decision on his part. I think if he had a chance to play on at Everton, I think he should have done that. But I don't know, maybe we'll never know the real reason why he's left. There's going to be a lot of speculation, obviously, a lot of different reasons. But yeah, I think I got my disappointment out of the way about 3 or 4 months ago when Ancelotti left. I think that's when I accepted he was going to go, and I was shocked he was still here come the end of the window. Didn't even realise the Qatar window was still open until about 2 days ago when these rumours restarted. I thought everywhere was shut, but the fact he hasn't even been in a matchday squad since the close of the English windows and then the Turkish and the Portuguese windows, I think kind of paints a picture, to be honest. Disappointed a little bit, but I think if you'd asked me 3 or 4 months ago, I would have cared and would have been a lot more bothered then, I think.
Do you think it's at the point now where, personally, and I wonder for a couple of fans, where it's just sort of good to see a resolution to all of this? Because like we said, he's not been in the matchday squads, and he has been spoken about for easily, like you said, once Ancelotti left, there were always question marks. Do you think it's sort of, at least now we know where we stand type of thing, whether it's a good decision or not?
Yeah, it probably is good, to be fair. I think for most fans, like me, I didn't think he was never going to play for us again, to be honest. I would have been really surprised if he had come back into the fold. There's a lot of rumours about going on with Benitez, and if the writing wasn't on the wall when Ancelotti left, it looks like it definitely was when Rafa Benitez was the man who joined. I think maybe for the squad, it's probably good that it's been resolved. I think maybe for the manager, it's probably good. I hope it's good for the finances. I think there's rumours going around of the wages he's on out in Qatar, whether we're actually going to subsidise them or not, I don't know. But ultimately, if it puts the club in a healthier position in terms of the finances, and that's obviously another little bit of a bonus. But to lose a player of such quality, I think, is ultimately going to be the thing that a lot of fans are going to be focusing on. And I just hope the sort of anger can maybe be directed in the right ways. I hope maybe someone can come out and we can decide what the biggest factor was, whether he wanted to go, whether the club wanted him out, whether obviously Benitez had no plans for him. Maybe we'll never know, as I said earlier. But yeah, I do hope it has a positive impact on the squad, just knowing that it's dealt with now and we don't have to think about it anymore.
Obviously, like you said, he's a player of really good quality that I think at points we might miss this season. Were you quite surprised to see that he's gone to a Qatari side? He's joined Al-Rayyan. Were you quite surprised to see him move there this early into his career? Because he's still 29, 30.
I mean, I'm shocked when anyone goes to Qatar, to be honest. Like, I don't get how you could go out there and take your money from there myself. But in terms of his playing ability, absolutely. I think he could have gone and played for a team in the Champions League. I think he could have gone and maybe not played every game, obviously, but I think he was linked to AC Milan quite heavily. I don't know how that would have worked, but he definitely is Champions League quality. Obviously, if he'd gone to Porto, maybe we would have got Luis Diaz. Again, we might never know that for a fact, but I think he could have gone there, and that would have been a much better move for him. I think in terms of the quality of football in Qatar and, as I say, all the issues that surround the country, I am very surprised he's chosen to go there. I think even if he'd gone to one of the other Middle Eastern countries, it would have been a little bit better. This way, it's interesting because now do you say, well, he's gone there just because he really wanted to leave, because Everton really wanted to leave? we might not know. It'd be interesting to see whether he posts anything about leaving and maybe the reasons why. But yeah, I'd say overall, I'm quite surprised he's gone there when I think I'd be shocked if he couldn't have stayed in mainland Europe, to be honest. I think he could have definitely found a club who were playing, if not in at least the Europa League, then say the Champions League as well. I think he's good enough to do that. And I think he definitely has a year or two left in him. And the fact as well that he wasn't even in the Copa America squad for the summer, he's not a guaranteed start for Colombia anymore. And how much does he care about that? It's interesting. It's all very muddled. So yeah, I am quite surprised he's ended up going there, to be fair.
Well, it's interesting you pointed out maybe you'll write a sort of social media post about it, because obviously he did that with the Copa America when he wasn't included this summer. And you did lead me on to my next question. Obviously, he mentioned how much he wanted to play for his national team and represent them. He obviously was told he won't this summer, was quite upset about it, and sort of came out against the coaching staff saying, I am fit, I can play, sort of. Do you think him moving to Qatar now really, obviously he might get, he will play there, but do you think because of the quality of that league, it's going to really damage his chances of getting back into the Colombian side?
Well, I mean, if you look at England, I mean, Fikayo Tomori went to AC Milan and everyone just seemed to forget he existed. I couldn't believe he wasn't even spoken about in the England squad. And I just think when you go so far abroad, I think teams do forget about you. And it'd be interesting to see what the relationship's like, obviously, with him and the actual team in Colombia. I'd be shocked if there was 26 footballers better suited to playing in the Copa America this summer for their national team. So whether that was a stand from their manager or they didn't want to risk him at all, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see whether he's in their first squad. Obviously, he was at the beginning of the year, so maybe it is just down to fitness concerns. But the fact that he's moved to Qatar is not going to make him the bionic man. He's still going to be unfit. He's still going to miss plenty of games for them. There's no doubt in my mind that he won't play 100% of Al-Rayyan's games this season. So I don't know. I think once you go to a league that's just lacking in competition, you have to go play in some seriously feisty competitive games for your national side. You want players who are playing at the best leagues, and he wasn't included when he was doing that. So I really wouldn't be surprised to see him maybe end his national career now.
Obviously, without being offensive to the Qatarian league, I don't think the standard, I think it's fair to say we don't think the standard is very good there. Do you think that sort of played in the fact that he would go there and be their biggest star? I know Toby Alderweireld is there, but James Rodriguez is still a leap and bound above him in terms of reputation. Do you think that sort of might have played into his mind, the fact that he'd go there and be the big fish?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean, I think when you go to Qatar, there's a lot to look at: the weather and the infrastructure and the money and all that. As I say, I think there's a lot of negative points about going somewhere like that myself. But you see a lot of marquee players go there. You don't see them go to the MLS as much anymore due to the money issues there and the fact that you can't have sort of main players like you used to a few years ago when you had Pirlo and Gerrard that you're going over there. I think he definitely would have gone to MLS if that was still the state of play maybe 5-6 years ago. I think he would have gone there, been close to Colombia and what have you. But yeah, I think if you had to pick a sort of poster boy for a Middle Eastern league or the Chinese league again, if it was 2 or 3 years ago, he might have gone there. I think it kind of shoots James Rodriguez down to the ground because he's played plenty of football in Europe. He's not a European. He's not from Europe. He's came and played a lot of football over here. So he's already a bit of a journeyman now, isn't he? So I think it kind of suits his sort of timeline, if you get what I mean, in terms of being that sort of player. So I think he would definitely enjoy that sort of being the big fish, as you say, and their best player, their marquee player, as I say.
It's interesting you mentioned the weather, bearing in mind the rumours he doesn't like the cold of Britain. So, Qatar will be right up his street in terms of weather. Getting back to obviously Everton, and you sort of mentioned it, and I was sort of going to wait a little bit longer, so probably going to mention it now. Obviously, there were the rumours of why he's leaving. Is it him not wanting to play for us? Is it the manager doesn't like him? Or is it just the club are really desperate to get some wages off the books? And obviously he isn't on cheap. He's not the cheapest wage we have on the books. I just want your thought on that. Sort of, where do you think there is, if there is any truth of it? And how well do you think as a whole it's been handled, especially with the rumour mill?
Well, I mean, it's been a disaster, hasn't it, really, in terms of how it's been handled? Like, the whole, I mean, right from the get-go, in terms of him posting a picture of him going to Colombia when we're kicking off against Man City at the end of last season. Whoever said that was a good idea, the shooting, that was an absolutely dreadful decision. It wasn't the only mistake they made last season in terms of his sort of social media and what have you. So I think from minute one, it was handled pretty poorly. There should have been a solution a lot earlier. But as I said, I think it could just be an amalgamation of issues where the club want to get money off. Benitez doesn't want him. Benitez doesn't have him in his plans. James Rodriguez doesn't want to be here anymore, whether he doesn't like the weather, whether he wants to go and earn more money somewhere else, I don't know. Whether he wants to play every week, it could literally be anything. And this is where I'm sure over the next week or so, there'll be something in The Athletic or somewhere, and they'll give you something where it will be a source close to the club will come out and say that he didn't want to be here, Benitez didn't want him here. And I think that will probably be the most telling sort of piece of evidence we have. But at this moment in time, I'd probably guess it's just a combination of every little thing just creating a domino effect to the point where you look like he was going to stay, and then at the very last minute, he appears to have obviously gone over to Qatar now, hasn't he? So I think it's probably more just a collection of issues rather than just being one set thing myself.
Obviously, you mentioned social media, and you are right. His social media has sort of been, I don't know how to say, sketchy, probably in his Everton career. More prominent is the Twitch streaming that he's been doing on Call of Duty and not knowing that Everton were kicking off or who they were playing. Talk me through your thoughts on that, because obviously there was some fans saying he's free to do what he wants in his spare time, which I completely agree with, but it doesn't look brilliant for your club if, an employer, a player, doesn't know who you're against at the weekend.
I mean, that's just ludicrous. He 100% knew who Everton were playing on the weekend. I refuse to believe otherwise. I'm just thinking about the hours I've wasted watching him, not understanding a word he was saying, just waiting to say Toffees or Everton, or when he said Merseyside was blue, that gave me butterflies. I remember that back when I was watching all his Warzone clips. But I've got no problem with him actually doing it. I think he's not the only footballer who does it, and he's not the only one who's done a lot of that in his spare time. I think if Fabian Delph was doing it, a lot of people would bring a lot more issues to the table. I think he's got away with murder, to be honest, in terms of some of the things he's done and said and what have you. I think he made his bed there when he said he didn't know who Everton were playing. And again, as I said, if that was Fabian Delph, rightly, he would have been chastised for it. And I think he got off quite lightly. And I think that's a bit of an issue in terms of when you have a player who seems a bit untouchable because the fan base really wanted to succeed. And I think he's appreciated that the fan base love him at Everton. But yeah, that was ridiculous to say. Got absolutely no problem with Twitch streaming or anything like that. That's absolutely fine. No problem there. If he's injured, he's injured. I'd rather him be sat there doing something that he's enjoying and not having all the sort of mental sort of rigmarole that comes with being injured, not being able to play football. But the whole saying does no Everton play, and that was just, I thought that was very, very silly myself. And I don't believe a word of it either.
Out of curiosity, because you said you watched it, was he any good at Warzone? I was curious to know if
well, I mean, I'm pretty shite myself, so I can't comment too much. But from what I watched, he got carried quite heavily. And he loved a good kill steal as well. I don't know who he was playing with, whether they was childhood mates or whatever. But yeah, he got carried on 2 or 3 occasions that I watched. Yeah, but he got a few wins as well, to be fair, on quads and that. So no, he was all right. Yeah,
not too bad at all for him. Obviously now he's gone, and we were talking before we went live about how depleted our squad looks. I sort of understand trying to get the wages off the books, but do you feel he's the type of player that we might regret letting go just because our only other creative outlook in that role is possibly Alex Iwobi?
Yeah, I think, again, it kind of depends why he's gone. If he wanted to go and or if it's because of the finances, then yeah, I don't think there's much you can say. If it's just purely because Benitez didn't want him, didn't think he could fit him in, then yeah, that is quite disappointing. Especially when you watch Alex Iwobi last night. I've stuck up for him, and I think he's actually made quite a decent start to the season. But last night he was absolutely poor, and he wasn't. Alex Iwobi really, really poor, especially how well he played the round previous against Huddersfield, against a not similar level opposition, but certainly in the same division anyway. I think it kind of just depends on why he's gone. You've obviously got Andy Gordon, who sort of played, drifted in between there and the left last night as well. But the way he set the team up, when it's perfect, when we got all our first 11, then he didn't really seem to have a place in the starting 11 anyway. So that's kind of the hope. But as I was saying to you, I think if we had our starting 11 and everyone else picked up the normal injuries you do over a season, we could finish 6th or 7th. I think our first 11 is fine, especially when, I say, other teams are picking up injuries. But unlike other teams, if we get one Calvert-Lewin injured, we're getting battered at home by Burnley. Charlton and Calvert-Lewin gone, Coleman as well, and Pickford, and we're getting absolutely torn to pieces by Aston Villa. Like, I think this is where the manager's really going to earn the big money that he's earning this season, in terms of he's going to have to grind out results. That's what the last fella did. The last fella ground out results when we really had no right to get points against Chelsea and Arsenal, given the squads that we had and the way we played in some of those games. But this is really where he's going to earn his money, and we've left ourselves short all over the pitch. I don't think you could debate it, but I say it's more because Everton wanted to get rid of him because they had no money, or whether because he wanted to go. It makes it a bit easier to accept, but we'll see what comes out in the next week or so, I reckon.
Obviously, now that he's gone, there were a few fans, obviously, as anyone does when a transfer leaves, giving their thoughts and opinions on it. I want your thoughts and opinions on his time at Everton. Just looking at his stats, he played like 23 games, 6 goals, 4 assists, which coming from, it felt like he was always playing 2, injured 1, for me personally, but there's no denying his quality. I just wondered what your overall thought was on him.
I loved watching him play for Everton. I really enjoyed it. He was magic in some of those games, some of the goals he scored, some of the bits of skill. Mesmeric at times, and it's just a huge shame we didn't get to see him, because I've been at both the home games this season. I'll be at Norwich on Saturday as well, and just sort of thinking I love being at the match and what have you, but I wish I get to see Andros Townsend, and I love to get to see James Rodriguez even play football. It would just be great, because he's a genuine superstar. He's in the top 20 most followed people on Instagram in sport, or maybe even the world. I can't remember, but he's an absolute global superstar. So it would have been great to watch him play. I think a lot of people say he's the most skillful player they've seen since, whether you say Pienaar, whether you say Cancelo, just probably depends how old you are. For me, he's the most skillful player I've ever seen play for Everton. But I never got to see him live, which is a huge shame. So I think I'm glad it's happened. It's better to have loved and lost, but yeah, it's ended in a very messy way. But again, sort of going back to my first point, I kind of accepted this day was coming about 4 months ago, and even if he had stayed, I'm not convinced he would have been anywhere near the first team, which again makes it even worse. So, I say I'm glad it's happened. I'm glad we got to watch him at least on the television anyway. But I think if you're one of those lucky people who are journalists or whatever, got to see him in the real games, then yeah, I'm sure they're probably the best place to sort of talk about him.
I sort of had the same opinion as you. It's better to have loved and lost than to never had, sort of thing. And we'll always have his assist in the Merseyside derby as well, which is obviously a fantastic moment from him. Obviously, you mentioned the Porto move, and Diaz coming the other way. But for whatever reason, that sort of broke down. I heard rumours Porto didn't want to pay his wages. Do you think it was a matter of, obviously high wages, or do you think he maybe looked for a better move somewhere else in Europe? Like you said, AC Milan were linked for some time, but never put a bid in.
Again, this is where it's going to be interesting. Was he told that he was going to be back in the Everton fold? Did he think I can get money from Qatar? Was that deal maybe even not even his choice? Maybe Everton couldn't pay the money for Luis Diaz. It's going to be really interesting to find out. I mean, it seems really unfortunate, because I've seen someone the other day that said that the way he started the season, Diaz, I think he's almost matched his contributions to last season already. He's been on fire, and that it's going to cost a lot of money to get him out of there, and how, which absolutely sums everything up, I think. Again, I really wouldn't be able to say. It made perfect sense. I actually said before he was even linked, I said to my dad, I was like, I wouldn't be surprised to see him go back to Porto as an example, because he was absolutely adored there. And obviously before he went over to Monaco, where he spent that one season, and he went to Real Madrid, obviously. So it was a big part of his history there, and then I think he played in at least one unbeaten season, maybe even 2 whilst he was out in Portugal. So yeah, he was an absolutely fantastic player for them, and that made a lot of sense. Got to play in the Champions League, I believe, as well. So I really don't know what to think about it. I say it's going to depend what comes out and all the exclusives and what have you. But I think my guess would be he didn't want to go to play in a league at that level, thought he could maybe get a better move, and he's ended up obviously going to Qatar.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame that he's sort of gone there because, like you said, Porto obviously is a big part of his history. So I was a bit surprised he didn't go back when I saw the links. I thought, I don't know, that love of history that football fans have. I thought that would be the perfect move for him. But I think he'll do for the games he'll play in Qatar. I don't think he'll play an awful lot, but I think he'll play similar to us, 23 games, depending on his injury. I think he'll do well. And that is all we've got time for though today. So don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and comment down below your thoughts on James Rodriguez. And you can also follow James and the Babbling Blues. Links will be in the description down below. And you can buy your Everton merchandise through the link in the description down below. It helps the channel out massively.